value of wrestling, the revolutionary force in wrestling podcasting.
Get this all on. Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen, you know it. We are back. We are live. We are here in studio. This is the Value Wrestling. This is your weekly roundup. We are here to talk about everything that went down this week in the world of wrestling. A lot of stuff going down. We had Survivor Series last night. We had an interesting week of wrestling. We had the biggest news of professional wrestling since, I guess, the last time he returned to the ring of professional wrestling. The one, the only CM Punk for this time. It's back in the WWE, and there is news everywhere. Everybody's going chaotic, all about CM Punk. We're going to break that down. We're going to talk about what does AEW do from going forward, and a lot of the other stories. Is Drew McIntyre pissed off at CM Punk showing up? What is Drew McIntyre pissed off? Is Seth Rollins working us? Is he shooting? Is this all real? So much to talk about there. Survivor Series being a good show. AEW kind of in a tailspin, how they're going to rebound from this. We're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss a little New Japan wrestling news. But mostly, I mean, it's got to be the Punk. Yeah, that's Major League. Anyways, let's get in the introductions. Of course, up here in the corner, the one, the only. Oh, believe that. And of course, you know our other gentleman, our New Japan Pro Wrestling expert, the one, the only.
Miguel Z.
Oh, believe that. Welcome to the party. Everybody, lottie-dottie. Yes, we are working, we are running. Whoops, that's a little loud. Let's turn that back down. Anyways, you know me. I'm the one, I'm the only, I'm the B-I-G, the T-Y-M-E. I'm the Big Tyme. I'm here, and we're going to blow this out of the water. Oh, yeah. Are you here? Are you here? Oh, yes. Are we ready to talk about what is the week of wrestling starting last Monday, ending on Saturday night? What a crazy week we've had. What a crazy journey. The ups and downs, everything going on. Report this, report that. And the biggest shocker, I mean, you have to give credit to WWE. They nailed it on the head. Triple H killed it in a way that makes Tony Khan look a little pathetic. I mean, Triple H, whether intentionally or unintentionally, as we break down the news, returning CM Punk the way he did, blew the wrestling world upside down, blew the roof off. I mean, have they checked out the Allstate Arena in Chicago? Is it in pieces? Have they got the roof back on? What's the status there? Because, I mean, I don't think we've heard a crowd pop that loud in a long freaking time. I don't even think when they were in the Allstate Arena with the return of CM Punk and AEW, they got that loud. Of course, I don't know how many people were in that arena. I think it was sold out. But anywho, so let's break down the news. We'll jump into CM Punk. We'll talk about all the different reports. Dave Meltzer, Sean Ross Apps, Ringside News, everybody putting their 2 cents in there. And here's what we understand. A, Triple H had told everybody a long time ago that they weren't in talks with CM Punk. The news and rumors that CM Punk was going to show up in Chicago at Survivor Series, this is all planned. It's been going on for months and months. Pretty much since Punk got fired. Now, we got to remember that WWE and the show Survivor Series were already booked in Chicago way before Punk even got fired. So there wasn't any initial plans for this, and during the whole time, pretty much, there was no plans. Even from Triple H's own mouth at the media thing, I forget what they call it for WWE. It's a news
press conference.
Yes, the press conference. Triple H said there wasn't anything. It kind of came down when the rumors started dying. Then it kind of came together. From what we understand in the news, Meltzer, Sean Rassaps, the big names, have came out and said is that November 19th, Triple H and CM Punk sat down for a long hour conversation, maybe a little more, about it. And this is the first time they really had hard discussions. And nothing was done until yesterday morning. Yesterday morning was when Punk actually signed the contract. And nobody knew about it. None of the TKO executives, not creative, not staff, not producers, not talent. The only talent we know for sure that kind of knew about it was the men War Games. Right before they went out, Triple H announced to them that CM Punk's going to show up after the match. So these guys all knew, which will be important details as we continue this conversation. But all these people that were going into this match, all 10 plus probably Rhea, knew that, CM Punk was supposed to be returning after this match was over. And so, they kind of know which changes a lot of dynamics. But this all came together pretty quickly. This hadn't been something that had been going on like the original Porch War, when Sean Ross and Meltzer and all these people were like, no, he's not showing up, he's not showing up. There was a lot of truth in that. We all didn't know. It wasn't until officially the day of Survivor Series that it pretty much happened. And Triple H nailed it, because really Triple H and Nick Khan were about the only people who knew. Now, there might have been a few other people over that week when that conversation first started. I'm sure Triple H sat down with a couple people and let them know. Maybe not big people in TKO, but I'm sure he talked to a couple of his talent to kind of let them know, okay, we are talking to Punk. Something may happen. So we may be doing this or that. Who knows? This is all speculation, but I believe that Triple H is the type of guy that is going to address some things. But Triple H kept this undercover. Nobody knew CM Punk was there until he pretty much walked in the gorilla position. It was stated that Triple H took over producing the show at the very end there. He was the one that initiated the graphics, very much going back to NXT when you had the Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa situation where we thought the show was closed, you weren't going to get anything, and then bam! Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano changed the face of NXT in one night, in one moment. So Triple H called for the copyright emblem to go up on the show and make everybody think the show was dying, and then he called for CM Punk's music to hit, and off he sent Punk, and the game of professional wrestling's forever changed. So sticking with this facts, and just these facts just a moment before we get into the next step of these details, we'll feed this little by little. Gentlemen, your thoughts on all of that news? Was there anything else you all heard on that fact? Let's not, get to the next part. We'll get into that here in a second. But just to kind of get the conversation started right here, what did you gentlemen think about all this news, all this report, at least with the CM Punk return, that it was very short, very just kind of happened more than it was a long-term plan? Mr. Clarke.
I think it's funny that for his AEW return, he was the worst kept secret, but for WWE, he was the best kept secret.
No shit. There is truth in that. Mr. Z, your thoughts?
I've read some of the things, and a couple of them, like I said, Sean Ross Sapp, it was a black bag job. It was a black. That's how they did it, and lo and behold, I mean, the reaction you got out of the fans there in the building, and who knows how everyone reacted at home. I've heard of folks talking about they got video of their husbands jumping off the couch. I mean, what more can you say? You got the reaction that that everybody wanted.
Had a great reaction. Somebody I enjoy on YouTube, Grim, from Grim's Chili Show, from GTS Wrestling. Grim had been one of the hardcores, like CM Punk's coming back, and so he was watching last night with his boys. His show title came up on the air. He had a CM Punk shirt on, and when the copyright came on, he got mad and took off his shirt and threw it off to the side. And he was in the middle of complaining, that Punk did it, and then the music hit, and his boys were like, look, and he's like, oh. And then CM Punk returned. I know, I think What Culture and What Wrestle Talk did their thing where they showed their guys doing their live watch parties. I forget, Wrestling Days had his live. A lot of strong reactions. I mean, it blew everybody out of the water. Everybody, there was as much as some people would say he was going to show up, I think a lot of people, I would have to assume most people still had a little bit of doubt. Even if you were a hardcore Punk fan and believed he was coming back, I still think you still had to have some skepticness to you. You still had to go, if he doesn't, then I got to be able to live with it. So I still think no matter how hard you believed he was coming back, I still think you were like, oh, holy, when it happened, because I don't think anybody could have completely sat here and said with 100% guarantee, unless you're a crazy mark, that CM Punk was coming back. I was like,
you wouldn't know anything about that.
For me, I if he came back, great, but I wasn't dying to expect it in that sense, so it made it great.
No, I'm more relating it to the old HBK. Yes.
Oh, well, that was a different story. I knew HBK would come back one day. He wasn't done. I knew he was injured, but I believed in HBK, and though it took 4 years, it did happen. And I can remember those conversations. If you want to go back in the day, I would tell, after HBK retired, me and Paul would sit here and we'd kind of debate it. I'd be like, he's coming back. And Paul would sometimes just roll his eyes at me like, whatever. And then it finally happened. So, yeah, I kind of won that.
Well, I mean, take it from me last night when I'm watching it. I'm sitting with the wife, we're watching it, and I'm just like, okay, it's not going to happen. Orton came back. All right, that's great. I was fine with that. If it was just Orton coming back last night, I was completely content.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, there goes the credit. And I was like, wait, they're been drawing this out too long. And then his music hit, and I'm like, okay, there it is. You know, I was waiting to see not just the reaction of like everyone else. I mean, my wife had her own reaction. We won't talk about that. But other than that, I reacted. I was mixed because it's just how he left AEW. I don't know what the problem was there. We'd like to know what that issue was. It was like, I'm happy to see him back. So it's one of those things. It's like, was he really the issue there, or was he just tired of working with children?
And that's that's the debatable point, because we see where AEW has come since Punk has left. It seems like it's even in more chaos than it was with Punk there. With all the controversy that Punk may have brought in, or all the issues that were there, it seems like they're more in controversy and spinning in their own whirlpool at the moment since Punk has left, for one. Number two, my reaction was I was shocked, because I was sitting there waiting for a Randy Orton turn on Cody Rhodes. I knew they were dragging out the show, but I kept waiting. Okay, what are we getting here? Something's going to happen. I kept expecting Randy to turn on Cody, because that just seemed like where we were going. I was not excited about that. It would probably ruin the night for me, because I just didn't want to see Randy make this return after almost being gone for 2 years, to get in the War Games, to be on the winning team, and then turn on Cody. It was just like, to me, that felt like it would leave a bad taste. Now, if he does it on Monday Night Raw or later down the week, that's a different story. But I'm like, he's coming back. Let him be the babyface tonight. Let him have the celebration. I don't want a turn. But they kept dragging it out, and I was just like, what are we going to get? And then we saw the credits, and I'm like, okay, this was very weird of an ending. And then when Punk's music, I was literally like, holy crap, because I just was like, if he shows up, great, but I didn't hold any expectations for it, which made it really nice, because then when it did happen, I'm just like, okay, they pulled us out of the hat. They tricked us. They played us. They win. And Triple H has outshined Tony Khan. Again, I think, when Tony Khan brought in when everybody was expecting Bryan Danielson, and he brought out Adam Cole first and threw everybody for that loop, you're like, oh, we got Adam Cole. That's awesome. That's great. And then we had Bryan Danielson. You're like, holy crap. And we hoped that would change the face of AEW. Unfortunately, I don't think that did change a lot of the face of AEW. But when you bring back Randy Orton after teasing him, and I thought WWE was dancing with fire all night long, teasing this, oh, Randy Orton may not be here. Randy Orton may not be here. I'm like, if you don't have Randy Orton there, or you have another mystery person, or you have Kevin Owens show up, you may really lose the fans here. Right? It was a real dangerous game. But Triple H knew the ace he had up his sleeve and killed it. And when you got Randy Orton back, and then you got CM Punk in the same night, you've changed the landscape for professional wrestling.
I just got a quick question. I mean,
did it hurt? Did it hurt?
What?
Well, you had to think up this question. I just wanted to make sure you didn't hurt that brain cell.
You don't see the steam coming out of my ears because of the earbuds, so it's all good.
I know how many brain cells tequila can take out. So,
hey,
1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila, floor.
Floor.
Well, you seen how big the cup was.
Yep. Anyways, your question.
Where does Tony Khan go from here?
Well, I don't know, but we're going to get into an in-depth discussion of AEW here in a moment. But
everything else, it's almost this is chess. This ain't checkers.
Tony ain't playing chess. I'm sorry, Tony Khan has never been playing chess.
I'm saying, like I said, the Triple H, this is chess, ain't checkers, and he literally threw everybody for a loop. He turned the entire wrestling world upside down.
No,
bigger than Punk's first return.
Triple H and WWE get the W in this one. They did it. They did it better. They did it bigger, and they had a larger pop. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what you have to understand, though, Miguel. While WWE is playing chess, Tony Khan is playing mousetrap.
Oh,
I thought he was over there playing the game of life, collecting his family together, and trying to get around the board to make $1 million or whatever the prize is nowadays.
They are not playing the same game whatsoever.
No, Tony Khan's not even in the same game department as Triple H is with his chessboard, and it is sad. Anyways, so the other big news, we heard rumors and there's speculation, but I guess Drew McIntyre walked out of the arena pissed off, slamming locker room's doors, cursing under his breath. A lot of issues there. People are trying to say he's mad because CM Punk's there. I can't find anything relatable to the Drew McIntyre having issues with CM Punk. I don't know if something happened in the match. Maybe he was hurt. He sustained some injury. Maybe some spot went wrong. There's a million things that are going on. We don't know if Drew McIntyre's under a new contract yet. Is he upset that they can't get a deal done? Does he feel that CM Punk showing up is going to take money out of his pocket? We don't really know. It's all speculation. I don't get what Drew has to be mad about. I think he's on the right path in a heel turn. But supposedly Drew McIntyre's not happy. And then we had the big one. Seth Rollins was vehemently mad, was acting out. And now the reports that originally came out last night, we were live on air and we were getting the reports and we were all saying, well, we don't know about this. We're going to have to wait and see. We knew there was a conversation that happened with Seth Rollins and somebody when CM Punk came out. After our show last night, we were all able to watch different footage, different angles, and there's several different angles in there. Originally, the first one, you see the music kit of CM Punk, and Seth Rollins is still in the ring, in the cage. He turns around, he kind of stomps his feet, he looks mad, he kind of yells at a ref. And the next footage we see is of CM Punk, or Seth Rollins on the outside of the ring, coming up the entrance ramp, cursing out CM Punk, flipping off CM Punk, and excuse me, sorry, cat. No. So,
hey, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I got to go run some keys real quick.
All right. CM Punk, or Seth Rollins was yelling at CM Punk, flipping him off, cursing him out. There was no security holding Seth Rollins back. I never saw security. I saw producers at ringside. I saw a ref. There was Michael Cole and Corey Graves. Michael Cole did have one arm around Seth Rollins, and when Seth Rollins kind of jumped out and looked like he was going to go running up the entrance rate, Michael Cole put both arms around him, pulled him back. So I think what we're getting here, and I think it's been blown out of proportion, there's rumors that have come out. Dave Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp both came out going, this feels like a work much more than a shoot. There may be some shoot. Now, we know that Seth Rollins said CM Punk doesn't need to come back to WWE more towards the beginning of the year. He's a cancer. He said all these things. And there's a lot of speculation around it. I think we're getting a work shoot. I don't think there's this. The anger, the rage is there. I think it's all part of the storyline. If Triple H would have talked to Seth Rollins before Punk came in, I'm sure they're creating the storyline because I think we are going to see
a program worked.
Yes.
At some point.
Yes. No. Exactly. And I think we got the storyline. I think people are feeding onto it, and it's good. It's good for WWE because it's getting controversy talking. But I don't think if Seth Rollins is really that mad that CM Punk's there, that could jeopardize Seth Rollins being a part of WWE or even Drew McIntyre. I don't think Triple H ever would have done that. And so, I don't buy it as a full shoot. I think there's some work and a mix in there with a shoot. And so I think, it was a good showing. I think we got to see Seth Rollins. I definitely think our storyline is going to be, I think CM Punk just saw his first contender. And yes, there was talk that in the backstage area, Michael Cole and Triple H had to escort Seth Rollins away from the back. If that is true and that came out of the back, I'm telling you, that's where the work begins because they're not going to tell you, WWE ain't AEW, and they're not going to tell you or let stuff that happened in the back come out like that. So that's where I start saying we're getting into the work aspect. If he had to be dragged away, and then the rumor that Roman Reigns was there and he was pissed off and he was looking for CM Punk. If Roman Reigns was there and that's coming out too, if there's any truth behind that, which I doubt it, period. But I mean, if there's any truth, then you start going, yeah, this is all work. But initially, I can see where there were some people buying into this being a shoot that Seth Rollins was really mad at the return of CM Punk, but I don't think Triple H. And these guys all knew going into the match that they knew CM Punk was coming out after the show. So I can't see Seth Rollins already knowing and then coming out and just being like that unless you have something of a work shoot going here. Is Seth Rollins not like CM Punk? Depending on the reports you listen to, and you're going to get mixed reactions. Yes, no, it's hard to say because everything's speculation. And I'm not Seth Rollins. They're not Seth Rollins. None of us are Seth Rollins. So only Seth Rollins really knows if he's mad at CM Punk.
Real quick, and I'm not trying to, and I don't mean to interrupt you on this one, but if Roman Reigns was there, this is where I'm going to get a little pissed, a little PO'd right now, because if that was the case, this is a major pay-per-view. Where was he at defending his belt at this point?
Because he didn't need to be on this pay-per-view. Because you would have had Roman Reigns defending, if you would have had Roman Reigns defending his title on Survivor Series, it would have overshadowed some of the other matches, and there was just no point in him having a match tonight. Period. Because the match that needed to be happening was the men's War Games match. That was the story that needed to be told. It's about Cody stepping in the next step. It was about the return of Randy Orton. Where do we go here? And people can be mad, he has the world champion or the universal champion. He's not defending the championship. He's not on the major pay-per-view. I can understand where that is, but in the storyline of everything we're getting, he didn't need to be on Survivor Series. Should he be in the backstage area? Possibly. I mean, if he's, not on vacation, he's not doing something, he needs to be around. But again, I don't think it was important there was nothing Roman would add to this. And they didn't really have they don't really have anybody right now to be his next challenger. Now, what they'll do at Royal Rumble, he'll have to at least be at Royal Rumble to set the stage and continue the story. Who will fight at the Royal Rumble? I don't know. Maybe AJ Styles will finally be cleared and we can get back to the AJ Styles Roman Reigns feud that was supposed to happen before AJ got injured. So maybe that'll be Royal Rumble. He doesn't necessarily. He'll probably have to wrestle at Elimination Chamber since it's going to be in Perth, Australia, and they're going to want big things. But again, Elimination Chamber is really going to be your big match. Now, the other key they could do to that is they could put the Universal Championship on the line in an Elimination Chamber and let Roman Reigns come out dominant in a cage over all these guys. Of course, you could also book that with Roman Reigns and have Solo Sikoa in the Elimination Chamber match to create some animosity there going into WrestleMania. So if Roman's there, cool. I doubt he was really there anyways. I don't see why he would necessarily be there, but I don't think he was. I was,
like I said, I'm not mad if he was there and didn't defend the title. Now I see your point. It would have overshadowed everything. Yeah. But like if he was there, he was there. But we just, he's not. That's why they're turning in Rollins' belt into the working man's title.
And this is, this isn't AEW. This isn't a clusterfuck. Triple H knows what he's doing, and it's going to have this ship steered. And if there's any reality to this, we know Triple H is going to be able to sit these guys down and say, "Look, we're all here to make money. We're all here to make this company better. We're either all going to work together, or we're going to have to go different ways." And I don't see an issue like you would see in AEW where everything's going to go disastrous because of one controversy. All Out, the brawl out at All Out, that kind of hurt AEW, and Tony Khan refused to sit down and get it taken care of. He didn't want to. He's too buddy with the boys, and it's a dangerousness. But anyways,
when I think of Tony shooting himself in the foot, I go back to when Jericho's first stable was the Inner Circle, and MJF had the Pinnacle. It would have been great. It would have had great build, and then immediately you had Jericho's team go in there and completely wipe the floor with him in a backstage fight. So it's like that's shooting yourself in the foot. There was no real logical booking there. So like you said, this isn't AEW. Triple H is gonna take what he knows and make big things happen.
All right. So, Mr. Clarke, what are your thoughts on the Seth Rollins situation? Is this a work? Is this a shoot? What do you think?
I think even if he has the slightest bit of animosity towards Punk, whatever, I think it's dominantly work. Because first of all, when you look at the footage, you look how he was being held back. If Seth Rollins really wanted to get away from Michael Cole and company, he could have done so.
Yes. Yes. No, it didn't seem like he was vehement. I mean, you could see the he was raging in what would be a quote unquote character. Punk is not taking on Roman. I don't, not right now, not for a while, not till down the road. So you're way off on that. The story is going to be Punk versus Seth. Punk and Roman don't necessarily have the same story. Roman's going to be taken down by Cody. That's the story. If anybody doesn't see that, everybody who thinks that Punk is going to get in the ring with Roman, there's no possibility. There's no reason for Punk and Roman to tie it up.
On Fantasyland.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh.
Punk is not going to have anything to do with Roman. Punk is going to be on Raw. And his first storyline is going to be with Seth, and we're going to see that build. I think Punk will be in the Rumble. I think we're going to see Brock Lesnar and Gunther get it on in the Rumble. I think you're going to have Gunther probably eliminate Brock Lesnar from the Royal Rumble, setting up for their WrestleMania match. I know some people are like, ooh, Gunther beating Brock Lesnar will make Gunther great. And I'm like, that's fine, makes sense. But I really think you need to take the title off of Gunther. Brock Lesnar beating Gunther and taking that title off him and knocking Gunther down just a little bit of a peg. And then when Gunther comes back around Survivor or SummerSlam and then beats Brock Lesnar, I think you have a main event made there than just having him straight out beat Brock Lesnar. Because we haven't seen Brock Lesnar in a long time, and if he's going to return at the Rumble, get eliminated by Gunther to set up the story, and then go into WrestleMania, I think you need to have Brock Lesnar be the beast and beat Gunther first, and then Gunther can come back and get his rematch.
Said that he'd love to work with Gunther. That's
no,
the thing.
No, well, Gunther has said that Brock Lesnar is his ultimate boss, so I think that is a fine chance. But yeah, no, Seth and Punk are probably going to be your night one WrestleMania match. Gunther and Brock Lesnar, Jay and Jimmy Uso, Santos and Ray, Logan Paul and LA Knight, Cody Rhodes versus Roman. I think we see where this is all going. There's still some other matches that we're going to get built, but I mean, we're looking at a WrestleMania that's probably going to be in the upper echelons, if not one of the best WrestleManias we've seen ever, let alone in a long time.
40, right?
Yeah, so it's WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia. So.
Oh, what are my ECW marks?
Well,
where are they?
What about? Well, Ring of Honor is kind of loosely a fan favorite, and then Ring of Honor is a fan favorite in Philadelphia too. I mean, they are based more out of that area also. So, I mean, you start putting Punk in there, who's heavily Ring of Honor. If we could, have a lot going on there. But I think we're looking at shoots. I think we're looking at work. I think we see where the stories are painting, and we're going from there. Now, I know Mr. Z here brought up a very interesting point. What does AEW do now? Does this hurt AEW? Is this a shot at Tony Khan? And how does Tony Khan necessarily rebound from this? And I don't know. I figure Tony Khan's just going to blow it off and act like it didn't happen and try to ignore it and buy into his own hype and think he's going to put on great shows. And I don't think Tony Khan's going to be able to, I don't know. He may go out and sign somebody stupid thinking he's going to get this big splash. He's going to get this big hype. I don't know who's out there. I mean, maybe he brings in, Okada. Maybe he tries to sell Okada out from WWE. I know they got Will Ospreay, but damn, the way they introduced Will Ospreay last weekend at Full Gear, it was great. But now that WWE brings in CM Punk, I think a lot of people are probably like, in the sense of like Ospreay. Yeah, exactly. And I hate to say that because Will Ospreay is one of the best, if not the best, wrestler in the world today. But he doesn't feel as big as what they did with Punk. And just signing Will Ospreay at Full Gear feels so less important now with the way WWE brought in Punk. And I don't know what Tony Khan does. I think Tony Khan is an emotional reactor, meaning he's going to react with emotions. He's going to react to what happened. Oh, Punk's there. And I think he's going to go out and try to do something based on a reaction, based on emotions, then actually thinking about it and trying to figure out what the best next step for his company is. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts? Mr. Clarke, we'll start with you on what you see Tony Khan doing, what you think Tony Khan should do, what do you think Tony Khan will do?
What he will do, I have no fucking clue. But He's only got 2 moves. One, there's only one partial needle mover. I'm gonna say partial needle mover that's left, and it ain't anyone you're thinking unless you've been paying attention, and that's Mercedes Moné.
Yes.
There is no out surprising WWE anymore. There's no one left on the board. Even with those that were fired from WWE, sorry, they're not the needle movers. They can help make a company really good and solid, but they're not the same needle movers as CM Punk. So that leads me to, what should Tony Khan be doing? You see Tony Khan as it being a bad thing of him ignoring CM Punk and what WWE has done. Like, I think that's exactly what he needs to do. He needs to double down on his Continental Classic, make that as important, as prestigious as possible. Pay attention to his product. Make his show the best he knows how to, with the brains around him, not just him alone. And he needs to just put out the best wrestling that he can.
Yeah.
The best wrestling show he can.
Yeah.
It's like I said, some people will look at it like, well, what's he going to do? It's like, well, there's nothing more he can do on a surprise level.
Yeah.
So he needs to make the best wrestling show he can from this point and move forward.
I think he needs to focus on his show and try to make it better and try to get the eyes back on the product that were once there. I don't know if this Continental Classic will save it, because I think he hurt himself when he introduced a new title. Them trying to sell this as a Triple Crown winner, another title in the books. I think it's kind of just killed it, because everybody's like, you have too many titles on the show, and none of those titles really have a significant position. And it just doesn't, you're like, okay, we want to know who the main guy is, which is MJF, because he has the world title, but even MJF doesn't feel like that main guy at times when Christian can shadow him as a TNT champion. So you're like, the women's world champion of AEW on Toni Storm now is kind of lackluster, but Julia Hart with the women's TBS champion propelled her up the ladder. So now it's like, where's the prestigiousness of those belts? And you're introducing another belt, a continental belt, when your other belt, like the international title, it's had moments. It's been around Orange Cassidy for too long. I think it needs to go somewhere else. It definitely didn't need to go to Moxley, but it's kind of like, you don't do anything with these other belts. You defend them, quote unquote, yes, but now you're building a big tournament to prestigiously name the Continental Champion, when the winner of the Continental Tournament should be possibly the next contender for MJF's world title, not getting the Continental title. And then if you build this big tournament and you do it right, would the Continental title almost outshine the AEW world title at that point if you do it right? So, I mean...
potentially.
I don't have much...
The premise of the Continental Tournament, I'm not even talking about the championship, the premise of the tournament, kind of like, could be their King of the Ring. It could be their G1 Climax, whatever you want to call it. So the premise is good. It's the execution that we're still looking at like,
Yeah, and it's the overall, and then I think some of the names in there, people are like, nah, okay, how it plays out. And then I think adding Eddie Kingston adding his 2 titles to it, good for... It's good. It makes sense for Eddie Kingston's character being a fighting champion, but for this tournament, I feel like it diminishes the other 2 titles. Like, the Ring of Honor title is not important, and the never open weight of Eddie Kingston is not important.
The strong open weight.
There's a
difference between the never open weight and the strong open weight.
Okay, so the strong open weight championship, it kind of feels like they're diminished because now they're defending this tournament, and Eddie Kingston already lost. So, I mean, it's like, the way they originally struck it, he was going to defend his titles every week. Well, he already lost, and I don't know how bad he's feeling, because it looked like Brody King, when he hit that power bomb, almost dropped Eddie Kingston on his head, if not the back of his neck. It looked bad. But Eddie Kingston's already lost his first match against Brody King. So I'm just kind of like, well, so is Brody King now the champion in this? Of course, no. I know. They're being held until the end, so nobody's really the Ring of Honor World Champion or the Strong Openweight Champion. They're all kind of vacant until this tournament ends. And I'm like, you kind of feel like you're diminishing the value of the other 2 titles, and now you have this Triple Crown winner, and they just haven't explained enough to really make it sense. And then we know if you're the whoever, and then the Continental title is going to be defended, so whoever holds the Continental or the Triple Crown I've heard different versions of this, is going to be in next year's Continental Classic. And if you want to have a tournament like this for like a King of the Ring or somebody, great. You can do it, use the right people, make it build and feel it's like it's special. But again, I feel like Tony Khan's rushed this together to give us, again, I still feel like it was built for Bryan Danielson because Bryan Danielson wasn't going to be able to get into the G1 Climax. So I thought Tony Khan gave him the consolation prize of this. And so I feel like Bryan Danielson's going to come out the winner in this. And then again, Bryan Danielson, we had 3 matches on Dynamite, and then we had 2 matches on Collision, and Andrade got left out because his opponent's not ready to wrestle, I guess. So it's like, when are they going to catch up these matches to make it even? But it's, I just, in Classic, I mean, I think they could have done better. And I think when they added the championship, that deflated a lot of people. Because it's just like, why? Why do we need another championship? You have too many on the TV, and none of them feel... You just don't buy into the champions. When you look at Roman Reigns and see him as the Universal Champion, you're like, yeah, because he's carried it so. Look at what Gunther's doing with the Intercontinental title. You're like, yeah, the Intercontinental title is probably one that has been in its best in a long, long time. You know, that Intercontinental title means something. The U.S. title, it's kind of there, but it's not as significant. No, Logan Paul having it, we'll have to see what he does with it. And Seth Rollins with the world title, you do feel like there's importance there. People want that belt. People are going towards Seth Rollins. We know a lot of the tease with the Money in the Cash in Bank is good. And the WWE Women's and the WWE Women's Champion and Women's World Championship both have their place in there. And so you put value, you feel like there's value in WWE on their titles. And then you look at AEW and you're just kind of like, nah, the titles are there. I mean, MJF does not feel as special as he should as world champion. He just doesn't. And I hate it.
I would have hoped that this whole Continental Classic would have brought in more guys. He's got such a big roster. We see the same people every week. He's got guys in ROH, and ROH isn't even on TV. But like, you've got so many people in the roster, you could have made the Continental Classic. Start bringing in some of the newer guys, the fresh blood, getting them some TV time. Even if they're going to take losses, and get them some kind of exposure. And then the way they're treating Mark Briscoe in this whole thing is a joke.
Mark Briscoe has just been brought in there to take losses. This is what's been reported. Is Mark Briscoe is not going to be. There's some big reports, and even Fightful's kind of saying that people need to not get their hopes up about Mark Briscoe and AEW. This is not going to be Mark Briscoe of Ring of Honor. This is going to be Mark Briscoe. He's there. He's pretty much going to be your mid-card guy. They don't expect any high in the end for Mark Briscoe. This was just Mark Briscoe's only really here because his brother died.
Yeah, that's it.
And
that's fine. But other than that, it's like the same guys. And like you said, Andrade with his opponent, we don't even know what the hell that was about.
Well, because Bryan Danielson's not ready to wrestle. That's why. But I mean... Is it fine that Mark Briscoe's only basically in AEW because his brother died? Is that really, can we really just say, oh, it's fine? Yeah. It kind of sucks that he wouldn't be here. If Jay Briscoe was still alive, then Mark Briscoe would not be in AEW.
And he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
So, I mean, I don't think you can sit here and say, oh, it's fine that he's in AEW because his brother died. I'm like, no, it kind of doesn't do him any good. And if they're not really wanting to do anything with him, he's going to be a comedy guy. He's going to be a goofball that's kind of there. And you see that. You see where they're using him. And then, but yeah, you have the names. Let's see. You have Jay White. You have Mark Briscoe. You have, let's see, who's over on the other side? Damn it. Jay White, Mark Briscoe, John Moxley, Roosh. God, why can't I remember who these people are? And that's what's so bad about AEW. You have a tournament, and we 3 people can't remember everybody's name that's in that. And that's where you're like...
the same people we see every week. That's the sad part.
It's John Moxley, Jay White, Roosh, Mark Briscoe. Moxley, Jay White, Mark Briscoe. Who are the 3 that won last on Dynamite? I know Jay White, Moxley, right? And then who was the 3rd that won? Because Roosh took a loss, Mark Briscoe took his loss. And who was the other 2? This is bad. I mean, this is when you look at Tony Khan and go, hey, if you have 3 guys on here that have watched these shows and we can't remember who's in these classics, it means you're not making it poignant enough for us to care to really feel value in the people that are in this tournament. Like if we're
that was the point I was going to make.
So in the Gold League, we have John Moxley, Swerve Strickland, Rude, Mark Briscoe, Jay Lethal, Jay White. That's the gold.
Yeah, and Swerve Strickland won, and we know that Swerve is facing Jay White this week on Dynamite. And so there's that. And then in the Blue League, we have Brody King, who won. Brody King, Daniel Garcia, Bryan Danielson, Andrade El Idolo, Claudio Castagnoli, and Eddie Kingston. And Claudio beat Daniel, and Brody King beat Eddie Kingston with a vicious, nasty powerbomb that didn't look good. So, and Eddie Kingston's a little engine that could, but never will, unfortunately. He keeps going, I think I can, and then he loses to Brody King, which to me is like, I don't know why you put them two in the first match on the first show. I mean, I like Brody King. Nothing against Brody King, but him beating Eddie Kingston, when Eddie Kingston just came out and said, I'm putting my titles on this tournament, you're kind of wanting to buy that Eddie Kingston's going to be a threat in this tournament, but he loses his first match, and you're just kind of like, yeah, Eddie Kingston's a little engine that could, but never will.
Mm-hmm. It's been that way since day one, since he got hired on. I mean, you got to remember that big old spread he did on the magazine. They could have done something with them and didn't.
And I'm just like, I look at it and he's losing to Brody King. And nothing against Brody King. I love Brody King and what he can do, but he shouldn't have won against Eddie Kingston in the first match of this tournament. Now, if this would have been match 3 or 4 down the line and Brody King would have won, it would have been a little different of a story. But you have Eddie Kingston, who was or is, I don't know what he was the strong open weight and the Ring of Honor champion. And I don't know what the status is at this moment. I
think those titles will be attached to Kingston until the final.
Yeah. But he's the champion.
And I think that's how the official record book is going to count it.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's the champion, but he's losing in the very first match of this tournament, this round tournament, where he's putting his title on the line as a fighting champion. I'm just like, you just diminish everything Kingston's about, because now he's already lost. So now, why should I care what happens with him now?
Mm-hmm.
Unless he overcomes the odd, but I don't believe he's going to overcome the odd. I just don't buy it. It's just like Daniel Garcia being in it. I'm just like, I can't take Daniel Garcia seriously because you haven't presented him in a serious light, and he's supposed to be in a ring with a Brody King, an Eddie Kingston, a Bryan Danielson, an Andrade El Idolo, a Claudio Castagnoli, and I'm supposed to believe at any point Daniel Garcia can beat any of these guys, though he has the talent and we could have good matches, but the viability of how you presented him with the recent dancing gimmick, it's hard for me to get excited to see him in here. And it's just like, it's the same thing with it's the same thing with Jay Lethal on the other side. You have not presented Jay Lethal in a light that makes him feel like a contender, and it just feels like there's a slot that you could have used somebody that I could at least have put some validation in. Hell, why not put Miro in the spot of Jay Lethal? At least maybe you could have sold into the story of Andrade in the blue and Miro in the gold, that maybe in their storyline they'd come out as the final two and we could get them, over at Jay Lethal. Daniel Garcia, I mean, there's so many other people that you could have put in that position.
I disagree with you about Daniel Garcia in the sense of you put it all on the gimmick, and it's not the gimmick, his being the dancing fool, that's whatever. It's how he has produced in the ring. If they made him serious in the ring despite the gimmick, you would be able to buy him. The same way that Kurt Angle was able to do, or The Rock for that fact, was able to do comedy, but when it was time to do business in the ring, they made that part serious.
Yes. No, I totally agree with you.
That's not
how they're presenting. That's not how he's.
I agree with you.
It's not what he's doing in the ring.
But the way that you keep putting it out, like just because he's a dancing fool, just because he does comedy, you can't take it.
His comedy overshadows his wrestling ability.
It's not Daniel Garcia, the person, the wrestler in the ring. It's the character that they're selling on TV. It's Tony Khan.
You're blaming it on the gimmick as opposed to whatever's decided as what the finish is and how it's going to go about.
Meaning, I'm confused because the gimmick he has right now doesn't make me believe in him winning this tournament or being a viability.
Well, but here's the thing. I would say you would look at him the same way if he had a completely serious gimmick, but was still taking the same losses, still taking. Because if you're looked upon as enhancement talent, you're looked upon as enhancement talent, regardless of the gimmick.
Yeah,
and he's being booked as enhancement talent. That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't think I'd be so hard if he was just being the serious wrestler, Daniel Garcia, and still taking a loss. As with the dancing fool, where it just doesn't feel like he's serious. Like I don't see him getting serious and being what I've seen him wrestle when he almost went to the Blackpool Combat Club and was being a wrestler. I was like, this guy is cool. When he went over to the Sports Entertainment and he was with the Jericho Appreciation Society, it was okay. It made sense, but now that's all falling apart and he's kind of just out here in this weird, what? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's doing this weird dance, and I'm just like, this isn't the guy. This is not the right character for this guy. Like, this guy can really wrestle, get in there, and be a threat. This guy could go toe-to-toe with Bryan Danielson and beat Bryan Danielson and feel like that's a legitimate thing. Like, he could take that rub and go somewhere. But, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, cat. Anywho.
I was like, how many more? Can we get a counter on the side of the screen here of how many times you're going to drop that cat?
Anywho, I'm not dropping the cat. I'm setting it down on the ground.
But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you say drop, and people might run with that in the wrong direction.
Oh, no, folks, no animals are being harmed. He's just letting the cat down peaceful.
Yes. People are weird. You say something the wrong way, and then somebody jumps all over it like white on rice. Anywho. No, I think Daniel Garcia is great, and I've seen him. That's what gets me pissed off when they use this character, and I want to see better from him. And I think he could, in this tournament, if he was presented in the right way, he'd be a viable threat. Like, I could see him beating a Bryan Danielson. I could see him beating a Claudio Castagnoli. I could see him going up against an Eddie Kingston. But I can't buy the gimmick character that he's playing right now because it's like they don't take him seriously, so why should I take him seriously?
Yeah, I still argue that the gimmick is irrelevant, depending upon what they do in the ring.
I can understand what you're saying, but what is he doing in the ring that's presenting him as a threat?
Well, Stamps ain't giving him any wins, so of course he's not a threat.
Now, if he was winning every match and looking like a badass and still dancing, I'd probably look at it a little different. But based on the dancing and what he does in the ring and that he doesn't feel like a threat in any source, when I know, that's the thing that triggers me is I know he can be. That's what it is. It's like, we know this man can go in here and beat a Bryan Danielson, could go toe-to-toe with Bryan Danielson. We saw all this when they were trying to draft him into the Blackpool Combat Club, when Bryan Danielson was trying to make him the wrestler and not the sports entertainer. And we know this is legitimate. And then it's just like, So that's where I think I get angry and I get mad at Tony Khan because I'm like, you have talent, but you don't use this talent to be represented in the proper light. You book everything so weirdly. And again, I can get why a lot of these AEW younger talents and stars are upset because a lot of the ex-WWE guys are in big spots.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're like, and then you look at
NXT 2.0, but we're seeing WCW 2.0.
Well, I know. And then you take a guy like Luchasaurus, who's awesome and amazing, and you have belittled him to nothing, and now you've changed his name officially to Killswitch. And then he's fighting the boys, Dalton's boys. Dalton can't even get on TV, but his boys get on TV because they get squashed and fed to Killswitch. And you're like, turn off the TV because you don't care about Killswitch. Especially now that they've called him Killswitch, you're just like, no, fuck this garbage. And he's beating Dalton the boys. He hasn't been in anything serious, and then he's being treated like the big boots to Christian, which you get the heel aspect of that, but it's like, now, and then you thought you were going to see Luchasaurus leave Christian the other day, but that didn't happen. And now people are out here talking about how Nick Wayne's mom might become the girlfriend to Christian. They might start a romance.
No.
Now that she's got
you
bumped.
Don't want me. Now, you're going to blame that on me. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to get blamed for some of this. You feel me? And I'm going to get fired again. I had nothing to do with this.
Hey, as long as we don't see
in Tony Khan's ear.
As long as we don't see Adam Copeland versus Christian with Nick Wayne's mom and the title on a forklift match, I think we'll be okay. And we know that's where that's going. We know Adam Copeland's going to take on Christian for that TNT title because that's going to be the story they're telling. And you know what? Nobody cares. If you go watch the Edge thing the other night, and he did what he did in WWE with the stupid pipe gimmick, all of a sudden it's like now he's got a new thing, and it's just like, okay, Edge, cool. I'm like, be different in some form. We get who you are. I don't mind the music. I don't mind some of the characteristics, but give me something different. I don't feel like he's doing anything different. I feel like I feel like I'm watching, Attitude Era WWE with Christian and Edge are bumping heads. It's just like, cool.
We wanted to see this how many years ago in TNA, maybe? When Christian was in TNA? Not in modern day AEW.
No, it doesn't fit. And Wrestle Dream was one of the lowest viewed and producing AW pay-per-views of the year, and that's the one where Adam Copeland debuted. And his debut was quick, fast, in a hurry. And then if you watch Full Gear, it didn't have the same impact. And I know Tony's trying to make it feel like something, but you're just kind of like, bleh, don't care.
No, he's more focused on plugging next year's All In. That's what he's more focused on, because you see it every day that he's on TV. Oh, hey, remember, tickets go on sale. Oh, hey, tickets are on sale. That's all he cares about.
Isn't it the truth? Because it's on every show, every minute. They are just pushing that hardcore. And that's a show that doesn't even happen till the end of next August. And you're just kind of like, what about your World's End pay-per-view at the end of December that you're not booking any other matches for other than Samoa Joe and MJF? We're not getting any more of the devil stuff that's really making any more sense to this. Sting, did Sting even have a match this week? I mean, what happened to Sting's world tour towards his retirement? And why do we have, good God, can they get that freaking Ric Flair Woo energy drink off the screen the whole time nowadays? Like, you can have the cans at the announce table, but good God, I didn't know they were going to do the whole video monitor, which is just screaming at you. I don't know what
is the energy company paying AEW for if it's not just plastered everywhere?
I know. I don't know. I don't know what AEW does going forward. They need to do something. Not necessarily acknowledge where CM Punk went, but they've got to come back with something that's like, okay, here we are. This is what we are, and get back to it. But I don't have faith in Tony Khan. I think he's lost sight of everything. I think he has his fanboys that are hardcore dying for him, that are talking to him. The wrestling's good in the ring, but I mean, outside of that, AEW has nothing. And I get, you want to be different, you want to present things differently, and actually they haven't really been too much different from old WWE, Vince McMahon WWE, really. But I mean, they're not even giving us real good stories. Like, the Devil story has been like half-ass in. Like, it's like, when you initially started, you're like, oh, this is interesting, and then they just kind of dragged it out forever that, we never know when the Devil's going to pop up or why it's going to be important. And they're just having somebody show up on the screen like, ha, 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 ha. You're like, yeah.
And
I feel like this is going to be like when the Ministry showed up and Vince came out and like, it was me, Austin. It was me all the time. The only good thing we know now is that CM Punk cannot be the Devil.
There we go.
Sorry. So, I don't know. New Japan, what's going on, Mr. Z, with New Japan Pro Wrestling?
We are in the middle of World Tag League, folks, and we are 4 nights deep into it. Night 4 will take place tonight at 1 a.m. Block A, we have Shane Hayes and Mikey Nichols with 6 points. I'm only going to read the top 3 here. We have Kito Kiyomiya and Rio Iowa at 2 and 1 with 4 points. Alex Conklin and Gabe Kidd, the Bullet Club War Dogs, with 4 points. They're at 2 and 1. Real quick, you want to talk about AEW and ROH? Gates of Agony are 0 and 3 with no points in last place right now, folks.
Who?
I'm just saying. Then we have Block B, Taichi and Yuya Uemura at 4 points, 2 and 0. And Lance Archer, Alex Zane, Monster Sauce, 2 and 0 with 4 points. And then Atlantis Jr. and Sobriano Jr. with 4 points.
Lance who?
That's not bad. Exactly. He's getting booked like $1 million right now. But that's what's going on, folks, in the New Japan Inn. I'll be watching it tonight and then reporting back if anything changes.
Aren't the Gates of Agony trios champions or 6-man tag champions with Brian Cage and Ring of Honor?
Yes.
Did they happen to come out with Nana in NJPW?
No, Nana's not there.
Nana got murdered, remember, at Full Gear? So who knows when we're going to see Nana dancing on TV for a while. Anywho, that's about the biggest highlight. That's about the biggest highlight they have. Mr. Clarke, do you have anything you want to bring to the show today? Do we have a Clarke report?
Not really, because everything that I would have wanted to talk about, we pretty much did.
Yeah. No, I mean,
as a random side note, apparently Great Khan was talking to Tokyo Sports and about the possibility of him coming to AEW since he talked to Will Ospreay.
No.
So on the possibility of his own going to AEW, he says, "How do you know? It's no wonder they're offering me such a great deal. I want to drive a Cayenne." I don't know how to
love Great Khan.
With that money, is it too much to ask to buy land in Yoima? It's like Tony Khan, as he called. But for now, I have a mission. Shinsuke Nakamura said that the Japanese wrestling world needs a savior. Who else but me? I will be the chosen savior.
I love Khan. He's funny as hell, dude. Well, here's the thing. Jeff Cobb was in AEW for a little bit and then went full-time New Japan.
He had like one-off deal. He didn't like kind of
because AEW didn't know how to use him. He was another big guy that they're like, didn't they put him in a tag team, Bear Country or something for a minute?
No, Bear Country.
No, they had him. They had him as a hitman for Jericho for a little bit when Jericho couldn't wrestle.
That's right. Yeah,
I don't know.
And that dude is a savage. You could do so much with him. Look what he did in the G1 last year. And the year before that, he went to the semifinals both times. Came up short, but was booked strong.
Not Tony Khan.
Now, as a side note, you have to remember, Bear Country is now known as the Iron Savages. That tells you, he doesn't even know how to deal with homegrown talent.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And then he brings Brian Cage every now and again.
He remembers he has a Brian Cage in his fucking...
I wonder how Brian Cage feels that he didn't leave AEW when he had the chance. Because remember, he was like out the door, pissed off, and was about to go to WWE and then re-sign because Tony made some agreement with him, and then now he's who? He's the guy that shows up every once in a while, and I mean,
maybe he's in catering for a second.
He's in catering, and he's like, "Oh shit, you're here."
I don't even think AEW
well, he
has.
didn't have to buy his protein anymore. He's in catering.
I don't even think AEW has catering. I think that's like a cost cutting measure. They're like, eat before you come to the show.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, I mean, Brian Cage, he got beat a Dynamite ago in that weird 6-man match where they had what's his name, Ibushi, drive down on a bicycle and smack people in the back with a lead pipe that looked so fake.
Hey, last night's lead pipe looked pretty real to me.
Well, that was which lead pipe? The one on WWE or the one on AEW?
The one on WWE.
Okay, you gotta remember.
Consider the source.
I mean, Adam Copeland Edge did his same little maneuver to Kill Switch, taking the pipe in his mouth, and did the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
And that mess up.
I must have fell asleep during that because I tried to watch it last night.
But I mean, God, they had a bicycle in the back, and then they took poor old Powerhouse Hobbs, and they took him, made him look massive by picking up the Big Show, slamming Big Show into a car, and then the next night, or by the end of that match, they had him duct taped to the ropes and had his mouth duct taped, looking like a punk. Even James E. Cornette's like, you made this guy go out here, body slam the Big Show, or Paul White, or the Giant, whatever the freak you want to call him, and then by the end of it, you have him demasculated by taping him up to the ropes where he can't break out of duct tape, and have him duct tape his mouth shut where he's just stuck there hanging, watching everything go down. And then your boy over there, Bushi, coming back in the ring after he gets dropped on his head, and the match is over, and still trying to fight, looking like, oh, we. The biggest cluster in AEW history in a long time there with that match. The No Dragon, Free Dragon. I don't know what the name of the video game is, and don't care. I wonder how many extra video games they sold because of this match.
0, I'm sure. Here's the thing, though. Speaking of Ibushi, I almost wish he didn't become a heavyweight in New Japan. Because when he was a lightweight, he was a freaking star. Mm-hmm. He was everywhere as far as New Japan was concerned. And as soon as he became a heavyweight, it's almost like that's when he became injury prone.
Exactly. I hit the nail right on the head, folks.
or what Cornette calls him, a douchey. Yeah, a douchey.
Oh, Lord. That sounds like a Cornette thing.
Yes. Oh, Cornette tore this up as much as he tore up the Swerve Strickland Hangman Page match. And then
greatest match you've ever seen?
No, it was garbage, and I'm telling you, if it would have been reversed, if Hangman would have been hanging Swerve Strickland by that chain on that match, we would have a whole different conversation. So, I mean, to me, yeah, give it out. And then you had a main event that was overbooked and booked so poorly that it didn't make sense. And you go back, you keep listening to things like they had Adam Cole come down on one leg in a cast on crutches to wrestle Jay White, right? But when MJF showed back up, injured with his leg in the ambulance, all the security and all the people were trying to stop him from getting in the ring because he was injured. And you're kind of like going,
WTF?
I mean, I get you have to, in wrestling, you have to suspend your disbelief. You have to be able to buy into the illusion of what's being sold, but that just takes you out of it all. And you're just kind of like, yeah.
And then you bury Jay White in the process because he can't beat a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest.
Luckily, Jay White's good enough that he didn't completely get buried, but yes, he looks really bad right now. And again, he's another one of those New Japan Pro Wrestling guys that Tony Khan had to sign and get over to AEW because all the buzz, and he doesn't know how to use them. He's watered down. He doesn't feel like a viable threat. He doesn't feel like anything. Bullet Club Gold is starting to lose its luster.
At least he didn't put him with his buddy Pockets.
I would not continue your conversation because then you'll put out ideas. I don't want to see Jay White and Pockets team up.
Who's Pockets again?
Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy.
Oh, okay, that makes sense now.
Pockets. Okay. You know who Twinkle Toes is, right?
Only because we talked about him in the past.
Cornette calls Kenny Omega Twinkle Toes. But even Kenny Omega's not what he should be, and he's not in this tournament because he's chasing the tag team titles.
And he can't chase the tag team titles with Jericho injured after Starks and Big Bill attacked him.
Yeah,
I'll say this once again, Ricky Starks. If you're a smart man, jump the ship, please.
You want to hear
Ricky Starks was smart enough to jump from NWA to AEW. Now he just needs to be smart enough to jump to the big league.
Well, yeah. he's a Cody boy, so I'm sure he can call up Cody and get that door open, way open. Here's a big rumor: the Young Bucks are done with being the Elite. We probably will not get any new being Elite. They're going heel. They're going to create a new heel faction. They have two names that they're talking about. There is a possibility that AEW is going to sign one Nick Nemeth, and the Young Bucks are going to create a heel faction with Nick and Ryan Nemeth.
Depending upon what they do with it, could be good, could be garbage. Hard to say.
That's a coin toss.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why? If Nick Nemeth is coming to AEW, he can go team up with his brother and hopefully get his brother back on to feel like something as a tag team. I don't think they need to be associated with the Young Bucks. If the Young Bucks want to build a new heel faction, a new Elite, or whatever they're going to call it, they need to bring in people that are going to feel like threats. I don't see Nick Nemeth coming initially being that. I mean, he might get a small pop, but he's not going to be the big pop. I mean, any of the guys from WWE are not going to be the pop that we just got for Punk. So that it's... Mm-hmm. They can bring in Ali.
The other thing that's talked about is no better.
Who?
Colt Cabana.
Hey.
Well, they need to put Colt Cabana on TV just to keep the controversy going, because Scott Colton.
Scotty Goldman. Jeez.
They're not going to have anyone. They're not going to have anyone to get the pops that they got last night. That WWE was getting last night. They're not going. They don't have anybody that gets the pop weekly like LA Knight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who you team the Young Bucks up with to create a new heel faction that's not going to unless you get two newer talents that the Young Bucks can help pull up, or you have to bring in big names that are going to help the Young Bucks feel important. So unless you're bringing in some New Japan Bullet Club Gold guy or Bullet Club New Japan guys and having them do another spinoff
Civil
of
War,
Bullet Club and AEW,
Well, you can't do that because Jay White was exiled from Bullet Club. The only thing he's not allowed to have all that here. So it would be a civil war at that point.
Well, that's fine. And let them have the Civil War. Maybe Jay White will feel important again instead of being like second fiddle. I mean, Juice Robinson's about to outshine Jay White at this point.
He's already outshined Jay White at this point. He's one of my favorites right now.
I mean, I won't be surprised if Jay White gets kicked out of Bullet Club Gold at this point because, I mean...
Oh, hell no.
No. Oh, no.
Does he feel like the faction...
I understand the argument.
Does he
We get it.
I'm just saying, does he feel like the faction leader? Or could you have Juice Robinson take over Bullet Club Gold? And bring in somebody else?
A member or two.
Well, yeah, they could. You could add people in there. They put the guns in it. So, I mean, it's not hard to... Put anybody in this new Bullet Club Gold. So, I mean, I don't know. Jay White just doesn't feel... He was supposed to be the...
GOD, where are you?
Oh, man. Ooh-wee. I was going to say, my son's already suffered enough heartbreak watching Jay White get exiled from from New Japan. He doesn't need to see his boy get exiled from BC Gold, man.
Damn.
You wonder if Jay White's regretting not signing with WWE.
I think he is. I think he might be.
And anybody else that would be in New Japan right now that would be thinking about going AEW, going to stateside, making more money, do you think they're second guessing themselves? Could Tony Khan be screwing himself and be setting up the greatest Samoan dynasty in professional wrestling history in WWE?
I think the question that really revolves around, do they care about artistic expression or do they just care about money only?
Yeah, well, I think most of these stars in the world of professional wrestling these days care about their character and what they get to do on TV and how they're presented more than necessarily money at this point. Now, we know why Will Ospreay went to AEW because he doesn't have to leave the UK and disrupt his family and his life. So we know that's why he pretty much went to AEW. But the rest of these guys, if they don't have that, I mean, if you're looking at it and you're a New Japan guy and you're looking at what AEW is doing with everybody else that's gone over there, and then you're looking at the rise of WWE and how they've turned Cody Rhodes around, they've made Alexis King, Jade Cargill's making it look $1 billion. Eli Drake, who's became LA Knight, looks great. And you're looking at it right now. Where are you going to be leaning to go regardless of money?
Well, the funny thing is, the number one brand is already the number one brand, and they're rising still. Like, holy crap.
Dude, Triple H finally maneuvered to get Vince out of there and has turned WWE back into what WWE is known to be. And they're number one, and AEW is falling so far behind being number one. We thought there was a threat there for a little bit, and now it's like, we don't even remember the people who were in their stupid Continental Classic, and that falls on Tony Khan. It does. I'm sorry. It falls on Tony Khan. If people don't know,
I was gonna say we were talking about how Okada's has been talking to WWE. You're telling me there's a possibility we can get Shinsuke and Okada at WrestleMania once?
Possibly. I mean, the whole storyline that Shinsuke Nakamura is talking about right now had nothing to do with Punk. Triple H exactly came out and said, no, that is for somebody else. They have somebody else planning that role to be coming after Shinsuke Nakamura. So Shinsuke Nakamura, they could be they could be setting up for Okada and Nakamura. So yeah.
Woo! Please.
Just to see Okada get the proper American entrance.
Yes.
I mean, that alone sells tickets to WrestleMania to me. Let alone the match they can have between him and Shinsuke.
Let's put this out here. Let's say the Elite get tired of their contract with AEW. Could they go to WWE now with Punk being over there?
Ooh. Good luck.
Yeah.
We'll see. I guess we really would see then what's best for business.
Yeah.
Well, they'd be under a different control, and I think it would be okay. They'd be like, "Hey, you can either work together or get the fuck out." I think Kenny Omega would. I think Kenny Omega would go. From what I've gathered, it was between the Young Bucks and Punk. Kenny Omega just happened to be associated with the Bucks and just kind of got thrown into the mix. I don't think Kenny Omega ever had an issue with Punk. It was just more of the Bucks. And then when the whole breakdown went, I think Kenny Omega honestly was trying to play the neutral party, like, "Hey, let's not do this." But I think it's really weird. What if the Elite and the Bucks had? Well, of course, if they would have signed with WWE, then CM Punk would probably still be at AEW and be the big star for them. But it could have been really funny if all, of course, that would have been the death of AEW. If Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and CM Punk all wind up on WWE, AEW would have probably really been like, fuck.
Khan Senior, how much are you really willing to pump money into this company at that point?
Dude, that's what I want to know. I want to know.
Well, that's what we want to know now, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm more of, like I said, look who made the jump. Look who's done it. We talk about it. Who's jumped so far. And like I said before, Lexus King is money now.
Let's look at jumps. Let's talk about jumps. We've seen Cody Rhodes was the first big jump. Cody is excelling.
Yeah.
Bryan Danielson went over. Adam Cole went over. Those are probably about the only two names that went from WWE that you could say I've been doing okay. But Malachi Black, House Black's great, but is Malachi Black really that important? And look, he's not even in this classic tournament. They picked Brody King over Malachi Black. Andrade Alilo, yes, he's in the tournament, and yes, he's being used a little more now, but he still feels like a jobber because he's losing most of these matches. And his storyline with CJ Parker doesn't even really fit for me, but it's nice. But they haven't even crossed him in.
CJ Parker is
CJ Perry.
Is the former name of
Juice Robinson. Yeah. My bad. Yeah. CJ Perry. But I mean, we haven't even had Miro and Andrade cross paths after you're just kind of like, and look at Miro.
Acknowledged.
Has Miro really felt anything? Like they start doing things with him and then he goes away because he gets mad at creative and doesn't want to play the game or whatever the story is. We don't know. Then it comes and it goes. And then how they introduced CJ Perry was so lackluster that you were just like, oh, it's CJ Perry. Oh, okay. Well, that's not exactly what I thought would happen. Yeah. And then let's talk about, and Alexis King's gone to WWE, and they've turned him into $1 million. Jade Cargill has gone to WWE, and they are cultivating and getting her ready to be golden. I mean, the more time they keep her away and get her ready, I think she's going to be worth bazillions of dollars. And then you look over back at AEW and look what they've already done with Adam Copeland. Does Adam Copeland feel that important from the very first day? Like, the very first day, it was like, holy shit. Sort of. It was a weird kind of entrance they did with him that didn't make a whole lot of sense that he was there. You're like, this was cool. And then from there, it just went, bleh.
He's just another dude on the roster.
Mm-hmm. And he feels too much like Edge. I'm just like, dude, I get that you're using some of the mimics. You're Adam Copeland, the rated R superstar. But, if you're going to be over here, I want to see something slightly different, something new, something that, and we're just getting... I don't know. At times I feel like it's old WWE or old WCW and not AEW, this brand that was supposed to be for the young talent, supposed to be the indie talent place to go, was supposed to be the replacement for when we had NXT Black and Gold Original. That's what AEW was going to pick up on and run with. And now we're just sitting here going, hey. Even Moxley, as great as he is, even Moxley's just kind of like, you watch a Moxley match, you sit there with your watch going, okay, how long before he bleeds? I mean, we're more shocked when he gets through a whole match and doesn't bleed, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, it's just like WWE is picking up people and turning them into gold. AEW is taking people, and we're like, are we going to get them on TV? Like, we thought you were going to do something. I mean, did we not all think Andrade was going to become something important in AEW? Did we not hope for that? And then what did he do?
Even if he was only used as a mid-carder, you would have expected the gimmick to go over. It's like he still be used well, regardless. Like if they didn't put the world title on him, fine. but you would have thought he would have been used better than he has been.
Malachi Black.
Same difference.
I mean,
Yep.
everybody in his group, almost Brody King and Julia Hart feel more important than he does, and it's his group. And originally, when he came out with the one eye, and the whole storyline, and then, we got nothing for it. Claudio's kind of like he. The only reason I think he's hot is because he's been in the Blackpool Combat Club, so they've been able to plug him in somewhere. But he doesn't really feel. They gave him the Ring of Honor title, but they took that off him pretty quick. So I mean, it's just kind of like Claudio's here. Buddy Matthews doesn't feel any more important than he ever was.
Yeah,
and that man's got
feel like
talent.
A follower, period.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Christian's about the only one that's pop, but I mean, Christian's just, And even Jericho. Jericho originally was great, and Jericho was what they built the company around originally with the world title, but even Jericho nowadays, you're just kind of like, yay. Everybody sings along with the song, yes, because it's a good song, but I mean, do you really get excited to see Jericho on TV at this point? Because it's just kind of like, why does Jericho need to be on my TV every week? I mean, why is Jericho in everything, involved in every pay-per-view, when Jericho really doesn't have anything to offer, unless he's getting a younger talent over, maybe, but now it's like, the Golden Jets, you're kind of like, cool. They're probably going to become tag team champions. But, I mean, Jericho just doesn't necessarily have it. That's the other thing that hurts him in the ring. He's just not, and he's old, and I get that, and he's not, the spry, young, flying around the ring Jericho, but it's still, you're kind of like, look at Jericho, you're like, okay.
Well, I mean, it's like, okay, he's at that veteran stage in his career where he doesn't have to do much.
Yeah.
But by the same token, he doesn't necessarily need to be on every segment of the show either.
Yeah.
It's like they need to find a spot for him and then let him do that spot and go on with the rest of the show.
And of course, then you got matches like you give me a match at Full Gear with Swerve Strickland, whether you liked it or not, doesn't matter. We're not getting into that. That's a whole different sort. But you built Swerve Strickland to be this just mechanical, just villainous, just pure evil after this match, and then you have him fight Jay Lethal, and he had a struggle with Jay Lethal, and you're not continuing the story that you built at Full Gear. It's like
missed opportunity. Absolutely.
I mean, totally, because I mean, there should have been no reason that Jay Lethal, that Swerve Strickland didn't beat Jay Lethal in like 5 minutes. I know that might not have been the greatest thing for Jay Lethal, but I mean, you just had Swerve come off this vicious match. He should have been hungry for blood and just kind of ran through Jay Lethal in that match because of what you saw at Full Gear. And then 4 days later, he's kind of I get he's hurt. That's one thing, but I mean, it's just like, no. But you don't even acknowledge it. It's the same thing with, I don't get how Jay White isn't livid going on the mic after losing the title and being cheated, to get some face. You have him in the match where he wins and he just walks off and you don't hear anything about it the rest of the night. And you're going, that man just lost, made to look like kind of getting buried, kind of a nothing after he couldn't bait a one-legged man and, of course, two-legged one-legged men. I mean, the frustration.
He was going to face a one-legged man.
Yeah. But it's just frustrating because he doesn't. I mean, how does he not come out on Dynamite after that match, win it, get on the mic, and be like, "I'm not done with you, MJF. You cheated." Da 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 da. Even if you're moving MJF to fight Samoa Joe at World's End, Jay White should still be there, and Jay White should still be going after the devil, right? I mean, he got jumped by this group, and now you're just going to tell me he's going to forget that him and they got jumped by these four masked men, and he's just okay. Make it make sense.
I haven't heard anything about the Acclaim when they got jumped by the same group.
The Acclaim are dead, I think.
Okay, all right.
I think whatever his name went through the glass, and we're just the Acclaim are dead. Thank God, because I don't want to hear every week that it's day 72 of the Acclaim's run with the Trios champions that no longer feel that important. I was over the scissoring from the get-go because it's like, okay, it's funny for a little bit.
You notice BT tends to get tired of any comedy that's constant.
Oh, yeah. No, I get it. Because then it just gets worn out on everybody. So just like, all right.
It's funny for a little bit, but when it's the same thing every week, you're just kind of like, okay, I get it. You drove it in the ground. It doesn't do magic
Maybe it's
for
just
me.
not nasty enough for you. But
Oh,
no, happy
no.
for the what's not him.
I'm not saying anything. There's still time. I'm not saying nothing. I get fired off.
I guess I got to give Paul his favorite one.
Jesus.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've covered anything. Is there anything else you gentlemen want to discuss?
No.
Any other
Wait for
comments,
this episode.
thoughts? Yeah, we're about an hour and a half into this thing, so I mean, that is great.
You know,
That's
we were
awesome.
talking about the devil. There's only one devil I want to see. Where is Britt Baker?
Britt Baker supposedly could be the devil. I don't know. They've lost Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter. I mean, the whole worst Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa's cleared to come back. So
He's been announcing Spanish announce team for him. That's what I've heard lately. That's about it.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there that AEW doesn't know what to do with, don't know how to use, and it wouldn't matter. I mean, you got Tony Storm as the AEW Women's Champion. Character idea is good. The production of it is just not. And the Full Gear match just made it look worse. And we don't even know where she's going next. Ruby Soho doesn't feel like a threat. Soraya's, I guess, dropped down to a jobber. I mean, made women's world champion. Now she feels like what? You know, I wonder if she's wondering, well, maybe I shouldn't have left WWE. And you know what? I'm not going to be surprised at this point in time if one Mercedes Moné changes your mind and we don't wind up seeing the possibility of a Sasha Banks back in WWE teaming up with Bayley by the time we roll around to WrestleMania, taking on Io Sky and Kairi Sane in some new faction. Or hell, could we see Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, and Bayley, the 4 horsewomen, return at WrestleMania to take on Asuka, Kairi Sane, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai?
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
if Dakota could go, I'd be down.
Yeah, if Dakota go.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's murmurings that maybe Sasha Banks may be returning to WWE. Of course, I know that has a lot of planning with the storyline that's going with Bayley. But what if Mercedes Moné decides not to sign with AEW? If she's looking at it and looking at how, I mean, if I'm Mercedes Moné, do I not look at how they just booked? I was there at All In. They booked Saraya to look important and big, and then dropped the title to Sheeta. Sheeta drops the title to Storm. We're kind of back to where we were before that match happened. And you're kind of like, does how Tony Khan present AEW and the women's division make Mercedes Moné go, oh, I really want to be there now? Now, back a few months ago, a year ago, she might have looked at it differently, especially with where WWE goes. But if you look at WWE and look how badass Rhea Ripley is looking, how Io Sky, Asuka, Kairi Sane are looking, how that women's War Games match came out, is it perfect? No, but if you're Mercedes Moné, would you not maybe be ready to go back to a WWE that's ran by Triple H, which you have a long history and more trust in a Triple H?
Absolutely.
And imagine the pop she will get if she returns, and then AEW has no checker pieces left on the board to grab up.
No cheese from their mousetrap?
No
cheese, brother. No cheese.
So I mean, I don't know. Mercedes Moné, there's a little bit of murmuring that she may wind up back in WWE, and I really wouldn't be surprised at this point. She went out and tried the New Japan thing. And if she signs with AEW, what's she going to get? That short pop, get a world title on her, and then take it off? I mean, it'll be TNA 2.0 in a way, because this is what TNA did. Whenever a new WWE guy came in, they'd rush him to the top, put the title on him for a little bit, and then that was it. So, I mean, yeah, I feel if Mercedes Moné went to AEW, Tony Khan would put the title belt on her for a brief run, then take it off her, and then she'd be just Mercedes Moné in AEW, and you'd be like, okay, cool. So, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. If you're still here, go ahead and hit that like button. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're trying to make this march, trying to make this grow. We are at 137. as of right now, we'll have to see if anything grows here. Fortunately, we appreciate everybody who joins the Value Wrestling family. Make sure you hit the like button. That helps about in the algorithm. Make sure you hit that bell for notifications so whenever we go live with other programs, because me and Mr. Clarke will be back tomorrow night to cover everything that's going to go on Raw. And I'm telling you, you want to be here for Monday Night Raw tomorrow night for our review show. Monday Night Raw should be hopping if CM Punk's going to be on that show, which I pretty much bet we're going to see CM Punk on Raw. I think he's going to be the Raw brand. It's going to be something. Punk on a live mic. What is he going to say? Are they going to allow him to even talk about AEW? If I'm Triple H,
or indirectly.
If I'm Triple H, I let him. I let him have his piece. And then what is going to happen with Seth Rollins and CM Punk? There's a storyline we're waiting to see there. Is this going to be a hostile environment type of thing? There is so much. WWE is set for the rest. They're good for the rest of the year. They are going to get through the rest of this year. And then when we get to Royal Rumble season, when we get into this Royal Rumble, that is going to be probably the best Royal Rumble. And we're heading into possibly what could be the best WrestleMania in a long freaking time. I mean, if we're talking about Roman and Cody, we're talking about Seth and CM Punk, Brock Lesnar, Gunther, Rey Mysterio, Santos Escobar, Jimmy and Jey Uso, Rhea Ripley. We don't know who she could be facing at that point in time. Maybe a Jade Cargill finally shows up on the scene. Maybe a little too rushed to get her up to that picture. It depends on what they book her between now and then. We know Io Sky. What is Io Sky going to do? Is she going to go up against Bayley? Are we going to see all these women team up? There's so much left that is. I mean, WrestleMania season is going to be the most talked about season, and everybody's going to be going AEW all in. What? Because the biggest thing we're going to get all in is Will Ospreay against whoever the world champion in AEW is at that time. And at this time, it may be MJF against Will Ospreay, because I don't know who they could drop the title to interim, unless Adam Cole gets back from injury quick enough that they can drop the title to Adam Cole, and then Adam Cole can take on Will Ospreay. But again, I don't know if that would diminish Adam Cole's run.
It wouldn't surprise me if they gave Kenny Omega another run just to drop to Ospreay at All In.
Yeah.
That could work, but you got Kenny fighting with the tag team titles right now, so I don't know.
Presently, we have how many months?
Yeah.
It depends. Or if we start getting pay-per-views every month in AEW, like they keep talking about, then it may be a different story. But if they don't get too many more if they don't add up to, well, we got what, Double or Nothing would be the next pay-per-view in May after Revolution. So I guess you could. I'm just worried that they're going to give it to an Adam Cole or a Swerve Strickland and then have this short run, because the bottom line, we know Will Ospreay is winning this title out all in. That's written all over the wall. That's just as bad as Cody finishing his story with Roman.
Right.
So we know Will Ospreay is winning that title. So I just don't know who you might give it to in the interim without hurting him. Kenny Omega would be the safe bet. I wouldn't want to give it to an Adam Copeland and then only have it for a couple months to drop it to Ospreay. I wouldn't want to give it to Swerve. Just to have him drop it to Will Ospreay there, even though it'd probably be a pretty good match. But Omega and Will Ospreay, at least we'd get something out of that might be entertaining.
And they have history.
Yeah. But will Tony Khan work on that history, or will Tony Khan just put them in the ring just to put them in the ring to sell tickets to his show?
Crumble.
And how many tickets are they really going to sell to All In at this point? I mean, if they're in this status and you know that Backlash is going to be in France in May, that might hurt how many people go to that show. And then if you have Berlin's show or Bash in Berlin that next Saturday, because All In's planned for Sunday, and then that next Saturday is all the Bash in Berlin, that's going to take away people from buying. Not everybody can buy to go to every show. Now, granted, there are people out there that have the money to go to every show. Congratulations, I can't wait till we get super chat so people can, share that wealth. But anywho, I'm just saying, Tony Khan's really going to have to book All In to be something special if he's going to compete with WWE going into Berlin, France, and Australia this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we do thank you for being here. We thank you for listening to us. We thank you for taking time out of your busy weekend, your busy day, and being here. If you're watching this later, that's awesome. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe button. Share this out with everybody you know that likes wrestling. Share it out with friends, family, and everybody else in between. We thank you for being here. We appreciate your time. And we will be back next week at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with another week of the of another episode of the weekly roundup. Me and Mr. Clarke will be here with your Monday Night Raw review, as we always do, and of course we will be filling in the week with all types of new stuff. So be here, stay tuned, and like I always say, until the next episode, I pass the button. It's time to say bye, and I gotta get the mouse to work, and we can get out of here.